What up, y'all? Let's talk about the 144,000. I have mentioned in a previous video addressing the mark how it's meant to be a parody, or at least in direct contrast to what Jesus does in having the angel seal the servants of God in their foreheads. So if we go to Revelation chapter 7, pick up at verse 2, then I saw another angel ascending from the rising of the sun, having the seal of the living God. And he cried out with a loud voice to the four angels, to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea. There are four angels that are standing at the four corners of the earth. They're holding back the wind so that the wind doesn't blow. And we clearly know that this is a vision because John says, Edon, he saw. But notice that this other angel has what is being called the seal of the living God. Now that angel tells the other four angels, do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees until we have sealed the slaves of our God on their foreheads. It's the word doulos over here. If you don't like the word slaves, you can say servants. Now, I do want to point out the location again because it is significant. Now, watch this. I never hear anybody raising up any questions or arguments about whether or not the 144,000, which we're about to find out, are the ones who are going to be sealed. We never hear any questions whether or not that is going to be a physical thing, a literal thing, or a visible thing. I don't think it is, but I would like to bring that up as another inconsistency from the other side. What I like to do is deal with all of the text, not just some of the text, not just certain parts of the text, but let's look at those parts that people don't talk about all the time. Anyways, we're familiar with this verse, and I heard the number of those having been sealed, 144,000, sealed from every tribe of the sons of Israel. Now, again, the curious thing about this, and I know I'm about to make some of y'all click off or, ignore what I'm about to say. But again, I don't believe that this 144,000 has to be actually 144,000. I think that the number is just symbolic to the large amount of Jews or sons of Israel, if you will, who will come to faith, who will believe, you know what I'm saying? Like before the temple is destroyed. The entirety of the rest of the first century, the Christian church was primarily Jewish. Okay, it was primarily the sons of Israel. And these true sons of Israel, these true sons of Abraham, if you will, were being persecuted by the false sons of Abraham, the false Jews, who Jesus called in the beginning of this book the synagogue of Satan. Again, notice the contrast here with the language. And remember that it is Jesus who is giving this revelation to John. So in an exegetical sense, we can also look at this as what is Jesus trying to convey to John by showing him these things. I believe that it would be much more consistent with Jesus's words, his very own words in chapters 2 and 3, that he's sealing this 144,000 of the sons of Israel. In contrast, you feel me, to the fake Jews, the false Jews, the synagogue of Satan, as he called them. Remember, in chapter 3, verse 9, he tells those Christians of the Church of Philadelphia, he says, behold, I am giving up those of the synagogue of Satan, those who say that they are Jews and are not, but lie. He says, behold, I will make them come and bow down before your feet and make them know that I have loved you. If this is really in the first century, which I believe it is, I am confident that it is, then it makes a whole lot of sense what we're seeing in the book of Acts. It is very consistent with what we see in the book of Acts, specifically chapters 16, 17, and 18. Who was chasing Paul from city to city? It was the Jews. And this is also consistent with what Paul tells the Romans, what he writes to them. For this reason, it is by faith, in order that it may be according to grace, so that the promise will be guaranteed to all the seed, right? Not only to those who are of the law, as in his fellow kinsmen, right? Circumcised, observed all the feasts and the holy days and all of that, talking about his actual kinsmen, but not only them, but also to those who are of the faith of Abraham, who is the father of all of us. That is why Jesus called those Jews fake Jews. He says they claim to be Jews and they are not, but they lie. It is because they were persecuting his body. They were persecuting his church, and they were the ones who nailed him to the cross. Well, at least demanded that he be nailed to the cross. We're still dealing with that generation of Jews here. So anyways, I believe that 144,000 is symbolic of the Christians who were preserved through that time of the siege, or even kept from that time of the siege. Remember, when they saw those armies, they fled. They went to Pella. Those that stayed were of the synagogue of Satan. Anyways, the next time they show up in Revelation is right here. Chapter 14, verse 1 says, "Then I looked, behold, the Lamb was standing on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his name and the name of his Father written on their foreheads." I remember this is after chapter 13. The identity of the beast was given, the mark, and what the mark is. It is the number of a man and of his name. And his name equates to, or sums up to, 666 or 616, depending on, what manuscript fragment was floating around during that time. And again, this is just more evidence that this is a parody. This is in contrast, a motif, if you will. Now, the Lamb is on Mount Zion with this 144,000 because they are about to destroy the city. They are about to destroy the woman, the harlot, and they're about to exact judgment on the beast and the false prophet. And I heard a voice from heaven, like the sound of many waters, and like the sound of loud thunder. And the voice which I heard was like the sound of harpists playing on their harps. So as John is watching this, he's having this vision, right? He's also hearing the sound of beautiful voices. And they sang a new song before the throne and before the four living creatures and the elders. And no one could learn that song except the 144,000 who had been purchased from the earth. There's that word, taste gaze right there, or purchased from the land. These are the ones who are not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are the ones who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. These have been purchased from among men as firstfruits to God and to the Lamb. That's resurrection talk right there, that first fruits. So, with that being said, the 144,000 can definitely be looked at as yet another allusion to first century believers. Believers that would be going through the things that were prophesied to happen against Jerusalem and against the temple. Something else I don't think people really consider is the fact that the fall, the siege on Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple is so important historically. It was literally one generation from that, from the ascension. It was literally like less than 40 years. It was like 38 years, something like that. From the time Jesus ascended to the destruction of the temple, that was 40 years. So I'm going to stand on this, y'all. Jesus told John these things, they must happen soon. Yeah, as in they happen literally 2 to 3 years after John had received the revelation. John was prophesying in the same way that Ezekiel and Daniel was prophesying, except these things happened way sooner for John and his people than the other prophecies happened for Ezekiel and Daniel. The difference is they were told that those things weren't going to happen for a long while. John was told these things must happen soon. So I will stand on that, y'all. He says, "Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the words of this prophecy and keep the things which are written in them." That would really only make sense to first century believers because the time was near. For them, the time was near, and it was on them to act on the things that were revealed in this book. Remember, who was John's audience? Who was he writing to? Those 7 churches. So for those of you who are not satisfied with the dispensational explanation of these verses, here's a postmillennial partial-preterist explanation, doing actual exegesis of these scriptures.